Tears flow as boy performs Heartfelt Hotel California crying musical notes. The theater was silent. A single spotlight cut through the dim air, falling on a nervous young boy standing center stage with an old, slightly scratched guitar in his hands. The murmurs of the audience had faded into stillness, but the tension was thick, and the boy could feel his heart hammering inside his chest. He wasn't just about to sing a song. He was about to share a piece of his soul, a story carved into him by hardship, hope, and pain. And no one knew it yet. His name was Adrian, 16 years old, small for his age, with a face that still carried the softness of childhood but eyes that looked much older, heavier, as if they had already seen too much of the world. His clothes were simple, a plain shirt tucked into worn-out jeans, but he stood tall despite the shaking in his hands. For Adrian, this performance was not about fame or applause. It was about something deeper, something that weighed on his heart so much that he could barely breathe without feeling it. Life had not been easy for him. Adrian grew up in a small town where dreams often ended before they even started. His father had once been a passionate guitarist, a man who believed music could heal even the deepest wounds. But when Adrian was only 8 years old, tragedy struck. His father fell ill, and with no money for proper treatment, the illness worsened quickly. Adrian remembered the nights when he would sit beside his father's bed, listening to him whisper through labored breaths about chasing dreams and never letting go of music. Then, one night, the whispers stopped forever. His father was gone. From that day on, life became survival. His mother took on odd jobs, cleaning, sewing, anything she could find, to keep food on the table. Adrian, though still a child, tried to help. He worked after school at a small grocery store, carried boxes for neighbors, and sometimes sang in the streets, hoping a few coins would fall into the small tin can he placed by his feet. His guitar, the same old guitar his father had once played, was his only companion, the only thing that reminded him that there was still beauty in a world that often felt unbearably cruel. But music also carried pain. Every time Adrian strummed the strings, he could hear his father's voice in the back of his mind. Sometimes, that voice gave him strength. Other times, it broke him apart, reminding him of all that he had lost. Still, Adrian never let go. Music was not just a dream for him. It was survival, it was memory, it was love. When auditions were announced for a national talent competition, Adrian almost didn't sign up. He was afraid. Who was he, just a poor boy from nowhere, to stand on a stage watched by thousands? He had no fancy clothes, no professional training, no rich family cheering from the front row. But something inside him whispered that he had to try. Maybe this was the moment his father had always talked about. The moment to be brave, to sing, to share the truth of his heart. And so, he walked onto that stage, clutching the guitar that was older than him, its wood polished not by money but by years of love and use. The judges looked at him, some curious, some skeptical. One of them asked softly, "What will you be singing tonight?" Adrian swallowed hard and answered, "Hotel California." The choice surprised everyone. It wasn't a typical song for a boy his age. It was a classic, a song known for its haunting melody and complex guitar work. But for Adrian, it was more than a song. It was one of the last songs his father had ever played for him, a song they had sung together late at night, when the world outside felt too heavy to face. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and began to play. The first notes echoed through the hall, soft, delicate, but steady. His fingers, though trembling, found their place on the strings, carrying the melody as if the guitar itself remembered. Then his voice followed, fragile at first, but filled with something raw, something that reached into the hearts of everyone listening. There's a warm smell of colitas, rising up through the air. The lyrics rolled out, not just as words, but as feelings. Every line carried weight, every note carried memory. The boy was no longer just singing a song, he was reliving a story. His father's laughter, the smell of the small house they once lived in, the sound of rain tapping on the roof while music filled the air, all of it poured into the performance. The audience, at first polite and quiet, began to change. Their faces softened, their eyes glistened. By the time Adrian reached the chorus, some were already wiping tears. His voice cracked slightly, but it was not weakness, it was honesty, and that honesty touched something deep in everyone present. The judges leaned forward, completely still, their earlier skepticism gone. They were not just hearing a performance, they were witnessing a soul laid bare. Adrian sang with every ounce of his being. When the guitar solo came, his fingers danced across the strings with a mixture of skill and desperation. Each note was like a cry, like a call to his father, wherever he might be. And in that moment, it was as if the boy was not alone on stage. It was as if his father's spirit was there, guiding his hands, whispering encouragement, reminding him that he was never truly alone. By the final verse, the hall was filled with silence again, not because people weren't listening, but because they were holding their breath, afraid to miss a single moment. When the last chord rang out and faded into the air, Adrian lowered his guitar, his chest rising and falling as if he had run a marathon. He opened his eyes slowly, uncertain, afraid. Then, it happened. The audience erupted. Cheers, applause, and tears all at once. Some stood from their seats, clapping furiously, others simply cried, unable to hide the emotions the boy had stirred in them. And then, from the judges' panel, came the sound Adrian had only dared to dream of, the golden buzzer. A storm of confetti rained down as the golden light bathed the stage. Adrian froze, his mouth slightly open, his eyes wide with disbelief. He had done it. The boy who once sang on the street for coins, the boy who carried pain heavier than his years, had just moved an entire nation with his voice. Tears welled in his own eyes now, spilling freely down his cheeks. He looked up, almost instinctively, as if trying to see through the ceiling, through the sky, to wherever his father might be. And in his heart, he knew, his father had heard him. His father was proud. Backstage, his mother wept as she hugged him tightly, whispering that his father would be smiling right now. Adrian, still trembling, whispered back, "I felt him, Mom." He was there. That night was not the end of Adrian's journey. In fact, it was only the beginning. There would be more performances, more challenges, more times when the weight of expectation threatened to crush him. But something inside him had changed forever. He had seen what music could do, not just for him, but for everyone who heard it. Music had the power to heal, to unite, to make strangers feel like family. And so, Adrian kept singing. He carried his father's guitar wherever he went, not as a burden, but as a torch, a symbol of love and resilience. Every note he played, every word he sang, was a reminder that pain could be transformed into beauty, and loss into hope. People who heard him often said the same thing, that his music made them feel less alone, that it reminded them of their own struggles, their own dreams, their own loved ones. And that was Adrian's greatest gift. Not just the voice he carried, but the heart behind it. Years later, when people looked back on that night, they didn't just remember a boy singing, Hotel California. They remembered the boy who sang with tears in his eyes and fire in his soul. The boy who showed the world that sometimes, the most powerful performances come not from perfect voices or expensive instruments, but from the courage to share your truth. And so, Adrian's story became more than just a performance. It became a message, one that echoed long after the stage lights dimmed and the applause faded. A message that said, no matter where you come from, no matter what you've lost, no matter how heavy your burdens, your voice matters. Your story matters. And if you dare to share it, you might just touch the world in ways you never imagined. That night, when tears flowed as a boy performed a heartfelt, Hotel California, it wasn't just music. It was healing. It was hope. And above all, it was love.